Hey guys, welcome back to Pages, Panels, and Pictures, your one-stop spot for all things comics, movies, and more. I just got out of the theater from seeing Morbius, and well, let's just talk about it. To start things off, when the trailers dropped, I was so excited. It looked so good, but upon seeing the film, I was left completely disappointed. If you watched the trailers, you pretty much saw anything that mattered in the film. Any scene that I was really excited for example, the Spider-Man poster scene, or any Spider-Man involvement for that matter, Tyrese Gibson's cybernetic arm that he had in the trailer, any scene I was excited for had been taken out of the final product. There is no Spider-Man tie-in or involvement whatsoever, except for one lackluster set of post-credit scenes. Most, if not all, of the characters in this film felt uninspired, emotionless, directionless, and just completely underdeveloped. Jared Leto wasn't necessarily a bad Morbius. He didn't bring anything to the table that would make him stand out amongst the other heroes and villains we've seen in the movies, though. Tyrese Gibson and his partner kind of just bumbled around the whole time, and Matt Smith's character, Milo, was probably the most compelling character, and even then, his character was almost too outlandish to fit with the rest of the film's tone. So, the characters were definitely not a bright point. The movie itself was only about an hour and a half long, and it felt even shorter than that. Every aspect of the story was rushed, and it either felt like they didn't film enough, or they intentionally cut out any scene in the movie that was potentially the slightest bit interesting. The plot of the film was thin at best, which felt rushed the entire time just for them to try to push towards these big reveal post-credit scenes, which were probably just as bad, if not worse, than the rest of the movie. Morbius's powers in the movie are contrived from mixing human DNA with bat DNA, which makes him a lot less of a living vampire and more of a man-bat from DC Comics. The portrayal of his powers and the rest of the CGI in the film was nothing really to write home about, but I'll give them this, it was uniquely portrayed, albeit if you could get past a lot of the distracting visuals and actually see what the character was doing inside of these crazy CGI spectacular scenes that kind of just looked like a mess flopping around all over the screen in front of him. The last thing I want to talk about is the thing that was spoiled by the director Daniel Espinosa himself before the movie's release even. It's obviously the only thing that they cared about when making this movie. And yet again, I'll reiterate, it even felt like those were flops. The mid-credit scene opens with the cracks forming in the sky at the end of No Way Home, and then it cuts to a prison in Morbius's universe where we see Adrian Toomes, the Vulture, just phase into existence here. In this universe, there's no charges against him, so he's just freely released. It makes very little sense. I just absolutely cannot stand this scene. It makes no sense, not only from the point of view of Strange's spell, but from the point of view of common sense. Even if this guy just randomly appeared in your prison, that's still just a guy who randomly was able to infiltrate your prison. You wouldn't just let him go. I don't know. Not for me. The next scene, which they couldn't even be bothered to wait until the end credits were over. They gave that to us at the end of the mid-credits scene. It starts with Morbius driving down the street, seemingly being led somewhere by someone. And when he arrives there, who else arrives? None other than Adrian Toomes the Vulture in full costume. It looks not much different than the Homecoming suit, but the CGI is significantly worse, and the suit itself looks significantly worse. Vulture talks about how he feels like Spider-Man has something to do with this, and asks Morbius if he wants to join up with him and a few other guys. It was obviously just an aggressively rushed Sinister Six push. Morbius has no reason to even know Spider-Man, let alone have beef with him. Yet again, it just adds on to the very thin plot lines of this universe as a whole. And if this is the way things are going to be done, I am less than excited to see the future Sinister Six project. I don't know if we even want them to announce who the Spider-Man is in this universe. It's almost scarier than it is exciting. From start to finish, I'd say this was the worst experience with a Sony Marvel film that I've ever had. Most Sonyverse movies are at least so bad that they're enjoyable, if nothing else. This movie was just bad for the sake of being bad. It was so unenjoyable at one point, even amongst this rushed, fast paced story. It managed to bore me to the point where I started to doze off and had to force myself back awake just to pay attention to bring you guys this review. I had such high hopes for this movie and for the character, but after leaving the theater, all I am is just disappointed. I'll give it a 3 out of 10, and that's being generous.
Moon Knight is finally here, and with it comes our new Studio 5-star graphic tee. You can check out our new Moon Knight inspired design, Praise the Moon, which I'm wearing right now, as well as our previous designs, Vengeance and Strange World. These products are only available for a limited time though, so get yours while you can and use promo code PANELS at checkout to get 30% off of your order. Swing by their shop of many things on Etsy, link is in the description below, and then you can check them out on Instagram at Studio 5-star Official.
You can find me on Instagram at RoachTheBoyWonder. There you can get updates on this channel, you can see some pretty cool artwork, and you can hit me up for all your art commission needs. Other than that, like, subscribe, and hit the bell to get notified when we drop another episode. This has been Pages, Panels, and Pictures, and you guys have a good night.